job in the next election. That is how we keep them accountable. If a leader who doesn't do his job, no matter how his personality is, he should be replaced in the next election. That is why we have elections. Elections are not just there to keep electing the same leader for 30 years. Even though the leader might be a good leader, he is not the best leader in the whole country to continue to rule forever. There is time for everything, even under heaven. And the same too is also true when it comes to governing. There is time for everything. No leader can be a leader for life or a leader for 30 years. That's enough. After all the 30 years in power, with all the fame, with all the resources, the money and all that, but still they are not satisfied. This is the problem. That is why Africa is not moving forward. Nobody is the best. Even the law of gravity makes it very clear that anything that goes up must come down. And that is why you see for a fact that all the great men and women that we read about in pages of history, they often rise and they decline. Empires rise and they fall. People rise and they also decline. So nobody can be the best forever. Each day, each time, somebody somewhere is struggling, training, doing, making, performing to replace you. Even if you're a business owner, you can't be the most successful business or brand forever, because one day another business or company will come to replace you. That is how we should see life, as a continuous process. But us performing our duty in sequences, that is how we should see life. But when you see the people, these leaders, continue to serve in there and act as though the country belongs to all of them, I think it's a big mistake. It sets most governments whose thinking is just as what I just mentioned, to total failure. We need something better, and we cannot just continue to formulate policies just for the sake of pleasing the donors and the aid givers. We should formulate policies based on our current crisis, the problems and the challenges and opportunities that Africa faces, and how we can address them. We have all the resources in Africa. We have the resources in Africa. What we need in Africa is leadership. And just like President Kennedy said, the only valid test to leadership is the ability to lead, and lead vigorously. And I think we have not been vigorous in the way we lead Africa. Even Napoleon Bonaparte said that, do not be afraid of a pack of 100 lions led by a dog. But in any fight, they will all die like a dog. But he said, be afraid of a pack of 100 dogs led by a lion. Because in any fight, all the dogs will fight like a lion. Ladies and gentlemen, the moral of this quotation from President Kennedy and also Napoleon Bonaparte is very simple. We need strong leaders who will get things done, who are compassionate, who have the heart to do what is right for their people. Not to use the power for self-serving purposes, to use it for their own private interests, to use it to continue to abuse their own fellow citizens, to plunder their nation's resources, to live luxurious life and be buying cars and all these expensive jets and buying all these expensive mansions overseas and having foreign bank accounts, while their people barely could afford to eat a meal a day, while their people could barely even afford to buy medication for their sick children. While if you go to school, you have improper textbooks, and then all the buildings are old. They don't have good sitting tables, no constant power supply, no constant water supply. The roads are terrible, they are bad. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if the government is not there to take care of these social problems. What is the government there for in the first place? Why do we even have the government? Is it that we just set up a government which has military and the police continue to brutalize the people? All these different agents of governments have their own designated responsibilities, but together they perform in unison in fulfilling the role of government. That is the business of the people. That is why we have the government, for the people. So if the government becomes destructive to the will of the people, then the people have the power to replace that government with a new government. And that is done through elections. Elections are important in Africa. When you go out to vote in an election, you don't just vote because the candidate who is running is from your tribe, from your ethnicity, is from your neighborhood, is from your part of town or city, is your friend. You judge them by their agenda, their intention, their vision for the country, and what they will do to help transform the conditions of the people. And if they don't get the job done, deliver what they promise, next election is what is going to hold them accountable. That is why we have elections, and elections have consequences. So today, I want to also emphasize on the important need for the government to step up its responsibilities and do something to help the people. Those people in power should always remember that they are occupied with the business of the people, and whenever they are serving in those positions, they should also remember that they are the president or the leadership for the whole country, not just for the people who voted for them. Not also see the opposition as the enemy. The opposition is necessary for the progress of any country. Opposition is necessary. Obstacles are necessary for success, and so too is the opposition. They are necessary to keep the government on check, to continue to hold the serving government on their promises. That is why it is vital that the opposition have a voice. But the first thing that these people do once they get elected, they brand the opposition as the enemy, and then the media as the enemy. They control all these things, start to imprison and jail the opposition, and start to stop public peaceful protests. All these things are vital and essential for any progressive nation.